Hello, everyone. Heidi here from Ring Country. God is good all the time. Lately, my thing has been listening to a lot of videos that most of these are young people, like my kids' age. You can tell are pretty smart compared to most people their age when it comes to money and going over some different bad financial things that and choices that people out there are making and then breaking them down and giving smart advice. See, and the funny thing is that stuff I already know too. Obviously, that's why we're debt free. But the reason I like listening to those is it's not so much of the advice they give. I like hearing young people give that same advice. It's more about hearing a young person's take on what they see going on and also learning about what our society's doing financially. And um, again, this is why a lot of my videos lately have been more about that kind of thing because it's given me a lot of ideas of things to approach myself from my point of view. I dropped out of high school and got a GED in the 10th grade, and I'm financially better off than the older family members that told me to go to college. And that's one of the things these people talk about. And this is also why I find it rather fascinating because I'm really glad to hear more people saying that, especially today, college is pretty much nothing more than a scam, especially for the cost. I'm just shocked at how far in debt kids are getting, or young people are getting, just to go to college to get an absolutely useless degree. I mean, some of them are just dumb. It's like, why did you do that? Did you really think there was going to be a good job for you getting a degree in gender studies? But even the ones that people are saying, yeah, you should get a degree in, anything computer related because that's always going to be a good thing. Well, guess what? Now the people that were getting those kind of degrees are having a tough time finding a job. And I'm sure you can guess why. Because now you've got AI taking over all those jobs that they thought were going to be available to them. And these colleges and universities are just outrageous. When I went to college, I went to a private college. And of course, I realized this was 100 years ago. Not really. This was back in 86 to 87. Back then, well, I'm sure I can't even imagine what it is now. But it was definitely more expensive than just going to Washington State University, or definitely more expensive than just going to my 2-year college in Wenatchee. But that's where I felt I needed to go because it was a private Bible college, and it was $7,000 a year for full credits. And that was expensive. That's nothing now. And even people going to 2-year colleges are paying way more than that. But you've got a lot of these young people, and they're being basically browbeat into going by their elders. And on a way you can understand it, because there was a time when some of these older people, when they went to colleges and universities, they weren't charging that much, for one. And for two, there were actually decent degrees that when they got out of school, they could actually use them. But that's not what you see happening. You got people that are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt in student loans and are having to work at McDonald's or other such minimum wage jobs because they can't find a job anywhere else, and certainly not in the profession that they chose. And so I think it's a real shame that so many young people have been, my daughter-in-law, the one that's got her own home bakery. She's doing pretty good on that. My oldest son has an AA degree because he went straight from homeschooling to, at 16, doing the Running Start program, which is what they call it here, so that when he turned 18, he had his AA degree. He totally bypassed getting a high school diploma. He's doing quite well for himself. And then his wife, Kayla, she just has a high school degree. She's doing quite well for herself. And I bring them up because I remember her telling me that when she worked at the Subway, which is one of the only chains we have here in our small town is a Subway. And she was working there while she was in high school. And a lady came in that was a teacher at the high school. And she's like, because it was Kayla's senior year, she was graduating, and she asked her what she was going to do after she graduated. And so Kayla started telling her that she's going to do this, or she asked her if she was going to college, and she's told her no. And she started talking about what she was going to do, what she was planning on doing. And the lady immediately snubbed her nose at her and turned to the other girl and asked her, "Oh, what are you going to do?" And wouldn't even it was just like, "Oh, you're not going to college? Well, you're nothing but a peon now." Wow. And yet I can guarantee that Kayla's doing a lot better for herself, even if it wasn't for my son and his city job and being the fire chief. I think she would still do pretty well for herself. She's got a nice little business going. I think she's probably doing better than a lot of people that went on to school, that felt browbeat into it, because that's the thing. You're made to feel, even when I was in school, I felt that way, that unless you went to college, you were looked down upon, immediately out of high school. And I think, honestly, unless you know for certain, I think it's a stupid idea to go immediately off to college. But the problem is, if you feel like, oh, I have to go to college, right? As soon as I graduate, I got to do this. And so you're forced in there. You don't even know what you want to do with your life. You might start out with one major and then change it and then change it and then change it and then change it. Then you're in school for 10, 12 years because you keep deciding on a different profession, and you're massively in debt. And Kayla's probably, you can guarantee she's happier. She's able to stay home with her 3 kids and still run her business from home. Although I do still take the kids, her 3 kids, once, for a few hours once a week. That's every Tuesday. And that gives her a day where she can just focus on getting certain things done that are harder to do when all the kids are there. And that's working out pretty good. And I offered to do that. She didn't ask. Yeah, she's doing something she loves. She loves to bake. She's very creative. She's very artistic. She makes beautiful cakes. They're not only beautiful. I've seen beautiful cakes and then they taste terrible. No, hers look beautiful and taste amazing. Best cakes I've ever had. And I was never a cake person till I started eating her cakes. They're so good. It is said that a person's brain isn't fully developed until they're like 25. So why are we pushing young people into getting themselves deep in debt when they don't even know yet what they want to do with their lives? Give them time to work out, to just get a job, even if it is a low-paying job. They can live at home for a little while, start to earn some money, build up their savings, and give them time to decide what they really want to do instead of pushing them to get into debt. We should not be encouraging people to get into debt for anything. And, obviously there's trade schools, but there's more than just that too. See, I change trades every 4 years, and now I have a mountain of skills in a rental property. That is so great. That's wonderful. I see Ryan, he did the running start. He just did what he had to get the AA. He had the mentality that, for him, it was just a way to, to get a degree that didn't cost much, because if you can do running start, you can save a lot of money. Basically, you go through his program and the state pays for the schooling for the credits, and you pay for your own books and stuff. And so you save a lot of money. And he was able to just skip the high school diploma entirely. But when he went, he's like, I really am not certain what I want to do yet, but I know that I can do whatever I set my mind to. I mean, he recognized the fact that he still wasn't sure what he wanted to do. I mean, I know he had a lot of ideas, but he also had the confidence in himself to know that he could do whatever he set his mind to. And that's exactly what he's done. And both of my boys are very active kind of people. So the jobs they have keep them on their feet. They're not sitting at a desk or doing that kind of stuff. They're active. Ryan, he gets to run heavy equipment. He learned that at one of his first jobs as a young teen. He learned how to run heavy equipment. And his very first job was washing log trucks. Not kidding. But because of that job and because of his boss, and his boss was a hard guy. He really liked Ryan because Ryan's a hard worker. And because of him, he was able to get a lot of good references. And he learned a lot of skills, believe it or not, in that job. And then from there, he moved on to working for a contractor, running a lot of heavy equipment. And then now he's working for the city. And he still gets to run heavy equipment, plus a fire truck. I'll still remember that lady that followed me. She followed us for a couple years. She seemed really nice at first, then all of a sudden turned on me like a snake. It was awful. At first, I thought I misunderstood her email. She sent me this long email, and it was so scathing. But I thought maybe I was just misunderstanding it, so I replied to it, and I was cool, Explained a few things because I thought, well, maybe she means this. Nope. I don't know what bee got in her bonnet, but she turned on me, assumed I'd never been to college because I've been saying that, for basically speaking, college is a scam. Not in all cases, not in all situations, but basically, yes. And she called me uneducated, lazy, she didn't say spendthrift, but she told me I waste a lot of money. She accused me of having a bad relationship with my husband. A lot of things that she knows nothing about. And when she made the thing about Patrick, saying that, she could tell we have a bad relationship and we need help. You know what it was? It was all because of one little joke I made when Patrick was out picking grapes. And I'm like, ooh, here's a good little video clip I can put together and talk about my grapevines. And this was years ago. And so he was in the grapevines. He's a pretty hairy guy. And he's kind of long-bodied, but kind of short legs, short arms. And so it's funny to me. And he's in the grapevines, and there's grapevines all around him. He's practically hidden in there. And I'm like, oh, look, there's an ape in my grapevines. And oh, look, there's an ape over there. Because of my little joke. Oh, we need marital counseling. Are you kidding me? That's our love language. Hello? I'm thinking she must be an old spinster whose university degree did nothing for her. That's the only thing I can think. And I know that probably sounds mean, but why would you suddenly become so cruel? I mean, she said a lot of really mean things that were also very off base. And this woman lives way up in Canada. So she thinks because she has a psychology degree, she can make a state. That was her excuse. Well, I have a degree in psychology from such and such university. Because she has this degree, she can tell by one statement, long distance in a video that was like 2 seconds long, that we have a bad marriage and we need counseling. I'm like, wow. Yeah, college breeds ignorance and arrogance. Exactly. It's exactly what I saw. So that was she was pretty nice for a while. And then all of a sudden, I can't even remember what it is that set her off. But suddenly she was so mad. This was in 2020. And haven't heard from her since, and that's fine. I don't really ever want to hear from her again. unless she's going to come back and say, I'm sincerely sorry. And I would forgive her. But dang, if that's what a university degree does for you, I don't think I want one. 2020 in general is probably what set her off. You know what? You're probably right. That turned a lot of people into monsters. You can't even file bankruptcy on student loans. That's right. If you fall on hard times and can't pay back a student debt. I think it's a travesty that young people are feeling pressured to get themselves into that kind of debt. If they have to get into some kind of debt, which isn't recommended one way or the other, there's got to be a better options. Even if it's buying a camp trailer to live out of for a few years, why you save money to do something better. That's what both of my boys did. Used camp trailers, lived out of them until they were able to get themselves more financially secure to move up from there. They paid cash, both of them, for that because they'd been saving their money. But even if you had to take out a small loan to buy something like that, that's a better investment. Because like Ryan, he turned around and sold it for what he paid for it. He lost nothing on it. He gained. And both of the boys ended up having places to park. Like Justin, he lived out of his here on our property. And the only thing we did charge him rent per se, but it was basically to cover the cost of the power, the water, and any of that kind of stuff. Internet, just split all the costs of those. And Ryan, he had his parked at another person's that had bought this piece of property and had a shop on it. And he did want somebody living there, and he had trailer hookups there. He wanted somebody living there pretty much full time so that he could always have somebody watching the place, keeping an eye on it. So he let him live there for free. I think he only had to pay for electric and water, maybe. You can make things work if you really want to. And you have, obviously you got to know the right people. But I think if people tried hard enough, they can find ways to make things work. And that's certainly better than getting yourselves into that kind of debt that you can't even file bankruptcy on. People don't like to admit they wasted multiple years and hundreds and thousands of dollars. Yep, there's that too. Anyway, thanks again, everyone, for sharing your precious time with me. And I really do hope and pray you guys have a lovely week. And thanks for coming in. Take care and God bless.